to feel in heaven when my lover's near. Lord, let this moment last for another year. Though today has ended, the night's still young, I'd say. Lover, don't go away. Let it be the thing that I am longing for. Let's fly out from Manhattan to the California shore, just to watch the ships at night on the San Francisco Bay. Oh, lover, please, please stay. Don't say you have to go. Don't say you need to run. I'll stop the clock on Central Station and we can have a drink downtown. Let it be the night that I am longing for. Let's fly down south to Austin or to Ecuador, just to drink pina colada on a hot, wet summer's day. Oh, lover, please, please stay. Don't say you have to go. Don't say you need to run. I'll stop the clock on Central Station and we can have a drink downtown. Let it be the night that I've been longing for. Let's fly down south to Austin or to Ecuador, just to drink pina colada on a hot, wet summer's day. Oh, lover, oh, lover, oh, lover, please, please stay. Please stay. Please stay.
So in a rather unusual twist, unfortunately, you've got me to begin with on this what should be Facebook Live. However, Neil is currently frantically in the background trying to fix things for us because it would appear that Facebook Live is down, which is not ideal for me or for Neil or for our guest Robert, who we have sitting in the wings waiting. So Neil is just doing something in the background to see if we can transfer everybody over to watching on YouTube. I'm really sorry. I'm not entirely sure how this has happened. It doesn't appear to be anything we've done. It does actually just look like Facebook Live is down, which is not ideal. Neil, what's the status? Let's bring you in first of all.
Hi guys, how are you? In true lifestyle, we've had a few technical issues in literally the last 5 minutes. So I do apologize for that. What I've done is I've put a link on the group to direct you to our YouTube channel. So you should be able to see that. If you guys can see it, can you just give me a just write in the box and just say, yeah, you know, you head over there and you're fine, you can see us and everything. So hopefully about that. So I'm really, really sorry everybody about these technical things. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Yeah, this is it's typical. I know that Facebook's had problems in the last few days. I've seen a few people now say that they haven't been able to go live on Facebook at the time that they've said. and it's not happened to me. I've been able to go live with a couple of clients recently, and it's been no problem. However, right at the point that we went to go online, we've already had one technical issue in the background trying to get a microphone and a video camera working. However, now the further problem is our main output channel, Facebook, isn't working. So we are just going to be on YouTube, and we'll see what happens there. Neil, I'm going to just take myself off the screen while I try and do something in the background. Do you want to introduce our guest for this morning or for this afternoon? And we'll bring him in so that you can start the chat.
Absolutely. I'd like to say a really warm welcome to Robert Kenward from Usearch and Select. Say hello, Robert. I'm really good. Are you okay? It's not your fault, man. It's not your fault, honestly. So, what we did was we thought we would get Robert on with his vast experience of not only the events industry, but also the kind of recruitment side. Is that the right term to use these days, Robert? Because I hear them called different things. Right. That's all right to call you that. Right. Okay. So, do you want to tell us a bit about your background? Because I know that you come from a background of working in the events industry initially, and now moving into predominant. I guess it's predominantly, or is it totally just events recruitment that you do now as well? Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. So, is it something that? How long have you been going now for? It's about 4 years. Yeah. Absolutely. So, how have you found your first 4 years? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I just told you there, Robert. Dom, I just to let Dom know something on the fly here. I do believe that people can't hear Robert. Um, they're saying in the group, so I don't know if that ever. It's only me you can all hear, guys. Lucky you.
Robert, can you just say something for us, please? Wow. Okay. No, we actually can't hear you. Um, uh, this is brilliant. What a day. No, and I've just had 3 messages from people saying Robert's mic isn't working. Robert's mic isn't working. We can't hear Robert. Okay, I'll tell you what we're gonna do, Neil.
Yeah.
Let's make a bit of a rapid change of plan here. Let's switch off for the moment, and we're going to attempt to come back in maybe 15, 20 minutes
Guys,
once
yeah.
we've resolved.
If you could just sit tight, and we'll give you some more information, and then we'll jump back in again. So sorry about that. I do apologise.
Robert, wait there. We are going to come back. We are going to fix this. Neil, we'll come back on and we'll try again in, we'll say 2 o'clock. All right. Thanks,
Cheers.
guys. And really sorry.
See you in a sec.
don't you just love a bit of technology fail? So we had so many issues happen all at once. Then we thought we resolved the mic problem that we'd had immediately before we went live with Robert, and then just as we went live, Facebook Live appeared to not let us go live, which is brilliant. So at the moment when everything could have gone wrong, it did. Anyway, we have done a little bit of technical wizardry in the background. I have with me again, let's get my friend Neil back on the screen. Neil, you are with us. Say hello.
Hello, guys. How are you? We're back.
And I can now see that your mic's working, which is good. The big test will be when we try and reintroduce Robert. So before we bring him on, Neil, just let's briefly talk. What are we talking about today? Who's the guest? And then let's bring him in.
Yes. Hello again. This could be a bit like Groundhog Day, but here we go. So I'm pleased to say we've got Robert Kenward on with us today from Usearch and Select. I've known Robert now for at least 2 or 3 years. We've been working together on and off on the group a couple of times. Robert comes from a background in the event industry, now specializing in recruitment, predominantly for the event industry. So we're pleased to have him on today so we can talk about, how to get yourself ready. In case your situation has changed for you with the COVID-19 crisis, and how to get your CV ready, how to get yourself ready, some good tips and things like that. We thought it would be a really timely situation to get Robert on the show. So is Robert with us now, Dom?
Let's squeeze him in. Robert, say hello. Let's confirm that this is still working.
Hello.
Yeah, we are there and we're good. And I know that I know the audio is going out this time as well. So first of all, before we get into this, we've already got people watching. Thank you for coming back on this second attempt. If you're over on YouTube, then hello to you too. And if you're on my LinkedIn profile, then hello to you too. Let us know where you are, where you're watching from. And if you've got questions for me, for Neil, or particularly on this occasion for Robert, then please stick them in the comments below on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, and we will answer them as best we can in just a moment. But for the moment, I'm going to take myself off the screen and just leave you in the very capable hands of Neil and Robert to have the chat that is so necessary for right now.
So, Robert, hello again.
Hi, Neil.
Do you want to tell us a bit about your background and a bit about Usearch and Select and where you are now? Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. So I was a recruiter for 9 or 10 years back in the day. I then have been a senior event professional. I was the commercial director at Sledge, global development director at Bank Sadler, and before my first career was the commercial director at MCM Creative Group. So I've got that sort of live events, experiential travel mice background. My recruitment business has been going 4 years now. So I'm a retained recruiter, only working with agencies within those sectors, because obviously that's where my experience and network's from. So it's like freelance recruitment. So project work on an assignment, writing job descriptions, interviewing on behalf of clients, rather than the usual throwing CVs around approach that seems to be
amazing. I mean, do you want to tell us a bit, like, obviously the COVID-19 crisis has come and hit the industry really hard in terms of not much action happening, and I guess some people will have lost their jobs or choose this moment to change careers. How are you finding the situation at the moment? Are inquiries coming into you, or are they not filtering through yet or anything?
Yeah, I think the first thing to think about is to try to look at this. Yes, we have to be positive. The events industry will come back, but I think you also have to be quite pragmatic about where we are. A lot of clients, both prospects and people I've worked with for years, I'd say 70-80% of them have almost written off the 2020 year for the larger type of events. The 500 plus people. As an industry that depends on global travel and large meetings of people, we are hit worse than most. Things like experiential, a lot of the B2C clients, there's people that don't, products in hands, interactions, engagement, face-to-face. People are nervous about the health risks about that. Health risks of being, no one wants to be the brand or event. Look, there's a second flare-up or a large flare-up. So a lot of my clients are planning for getting to the end of 2020. Recruitment wise, there's a lot of people that are furloughed at the moment. The government's just said that goes on till the end of June. So there are going to be a lot of redundancies. Let's just be really honest about that. There's going to be a lot of redundancies July, August, because I feel, there's a lot of agencies that are struggling. There's a lot of agencies that maybe, unfortunately, I see some sort of using this as a bit of an excuse. They've sort of had vanity projects, shall we say. But also there's a lot of candidates, a lot of applicants that are, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to never have to explain why you changed jobs on a CV. There's a lot of people saying, actually, I'm not sure where I am. I'm happy with, and this time that I've had off has given me sort of clear clarity and a time to think.
Be a bit reflective. Kind of
thing. And actually, if I was thinking off the top of my head, about 5% of the people I've spoke to in the last 6-8 weeks, probably leaving the industry altogether. And now I work with senior candidates, so people that have been 10, 15, 20 years in the business. And I think people have seen this as, actually, this is my out. They're getting a redundancy package, and I'm seeing a lot of that, actually. So yeah, I think it's just being aware that there's going to be an influx.
Robert, I'm going to jump in, because one of the things about the furlough scheme is that it secures your job with your current employer.
Yeah.
But also gives you the opportunity to go and look at other things, and either whether it's training, whether it's upskilling, or actually just going and looking for another job. There is that opportunity there right now to know that you've got one job, your current job, which has been furloughed and is therefore safe for the time being.
Yeah.
But then the next thing is, okay, well, take advantage of that. Either upskill for your current role or go look for something else.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, there's a bit of a division at the moment between people who are still having to work, and people who are furloughed and getting paid 80% and not working. I'm already seeing people sort of, using they're not having to do anything and get paid, or they're still getting paid. But I think the thing with furlough, if I understand, is you can't go and get paid employment whilst you're being employed during the furlough period. You can volunteer and upskill and do, but you can't go and do anything where you're paid vice versa by someone else. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not going to be 100% clear on that. I actually think you can, but I'm not. I would need to reread that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an I've got an accountant, because obviously I'm a director of a small company, so I've got an accountant looking at, can I furlough myself? But then I would have to stop work. I can't invoice, I can't do any work. I'd have to mothball the company. And as most people know, and Neil, yourself, and a lot of people out there, if you just stopped and did nothing for 2, 3, 4 months, there's nothing to come back to. You can't just sort of mothball.
Yeah.
So are you finding that a lot of people are contacting you and register? I mean, can people register with you as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've got an initiative launching tomorrow, actually, where I'm basically just opening my diary up. So for via Calendly, so people can, that I'm getting lots of emails, people saying, I can't help at the moment. Recruitment is on pause. I wish I could tell you differently.
Yeah.
But I've got clients that I'm speaking to, planning for, June, July, starting to look with a view to getting people back in the business, sort of Q3, Q4. I've got a lot of network who, we're all stuck at home as well, and it's good to talk. So rather than just sort of say to people, look, I can't help, but I'm happy to chat, what I'm going to do is I'm just throwing open my diary and saying, look, if you want half an hour just to, shoot the breeze, talk about anything you want to talk about, I'm here to help. And I've also got a CV masterclass on the 30th, which I'll give you the link to afterwards.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
We'll put that in the comments afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in because Tracy has very kindly commented, legislation's now changed and you can work in furlough as long as your current employer is aware.
Oh, okay.
Which is actually really useful to know. Thanks, Tracy.
So you can get paid twice then, by the sound of things. That's quite...
I'm guessing to probably try and top up the 20% that most employers aren't topping up.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm not an employment lawyer or recruitment or anything like that. I wouldn't even pretend to be when some accountants can't even work it out.
Just going back to your background, Robert, do you think obviously the background, your events history background, helps you with finding the right roles for people, or speaking to the clients, I guess, and saying, well, this is something you'd need to think about this differently?
Yeah, I think I'm not afraid anymore. It took me 2 years to be quite comfortable with what my product is, and 50% of why my clients come to me is my background, is my network in that area. It's very easy for me to be speaking to anyone from an ECD to a head of creative to an MD and understand the language we're talking. And in some cases, especially with business development people, cutting through the BS quite quickly, if you know.
Totally necessary.
Yeah. You're right, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, my screen just went blank, but sorry.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
no more technical issues, please. You're fine.
Exactly. I can't see Neil now. That's the only thing. But as long as you can see him, that's fine.
I think we need
Robert, in the nicest possible way. That's not a bad thing.
Oh, I'm going to store that one, Tom.
So yeah, you know, half of it is that credibility. The other half is, you know, because I'm independent, because I, you know, will write the job descriptions, because I bespoke interview. It's more than just the CV shifting. I'm their PR, their HR, their recruiter, their brand ambassador, you know, it's much more than that.
Absolutely. So, do you want to tell us about some of your programs? Because I know that you're proudly wearing your Fitability t-shirt there. Do you want to
did it the wrong way, didn't I? I'm looking. Did it the wrong way. Yeah, I mean, I set the business up on this premise of Fitability. Fitability is around matching people with people rather than just the skills and experience.
Yeah. And
I think there's a big. I see the biggest issue in recruitment, and this is client side as well. You know, is they focus on filling that hole, filling that vacancy. You know, 60% of the role with that one client is actually going to be the same as any of their competitors. You know, it's 60% the same. We focus on the 40%, which is, you know, a candidate's personal career attributes. What do you want to do in your aspirations? But do they match the client's growth plan? So if you're going in as a head of creative now, that head of creative role in 2-3 years is going to either, you know, merge or, you know, become a hybrid. Something will happen to that role. If you're just focused on that role now, that's, you know, that's going to come and bite you on the butt in 12 months time, because that's not what anyone signed up to. So, you know, I know I'm in a lucky and an unlucky position. I'm in a lucky position that I speak to candidates, clients, I understand the sector. I'm unlucky because obviously I've physically got no work to do. You know, no one's in their office, no one's recruiting, no one wants to speak to a recruiter at the best of times, let alone now. So I'm trying to focus on, rather than what I can't do, what I can do. So I've got the CV Masterclass in conjunction with ALIA, the International Live Event Association. I'm doing an MIA webinar on the 7th, which again is around interview skills and webinars. I'm doing some work with Phase Sharp at the Fast Forward 15 program. I'm doing a video around, because video interviewing is obviously going to be a big thing where decisions are going to be made without meeting people. You know, that's very unusual in our sector. So just some tips about how to prepare for video interviewing. I've done a pro bono outplacement service. So agencies that had to make people redundant. I don't know if outplacement is helps people transition from being made redundant to, it's almost like, you know, counselling, coaching, mentoring. Mm-hmm. Usually there's a cost associated to that, but I've been doing some one-on-one sessions with people to help them, like we talked about earlier. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And then some separate sessions around interview techniques, because quite a lot of people haven't been interviewed before.
A long time, yeah.
Or a long time, yeah. You know, and our industry is quite networky. Quite a lot of people might have just got that job without having a formal interview, which will change.
So with that in mind, Robert, I know one of the things that we were talking about when we were talking about the ideas for this show was, you know, to give some tips on, you know, maybe the application process or the CV writing. I don't want to steal your thunder with the ALIA show. But are there any little nuggets that we can give to some of the people here about, you know, when they see a job and when they apply for a job, or, you know, writing the CV?
Yeah, I think it's also, and I don't want to sound like I'm being negative, but I'm just very pragmatic. You know, you have to be aware that before you might have been up against 9 other people for that role or 5 other people for that role. You know, moving forward, you're going to be up against 20 people for that role, because, you know, that is just the situation we're in. And there's a difference between being proactive and, you know, maybe reaching out to the hiring manager or the person that's posted or personalizing it, and being a pain in their ass. You know, that's a very fine line between doing that. So for me, I mean, I've always been an advocate of, you know, the personal profile that's at the top of a CV. Yeah. Just a quick hint: never put a header and footer in your CV. Always use the main body, because a lot of companies nowadays use ATS, which is applicant tracking software, which looks for keywords. Anything you put in a header and footer, for example, is going to get missed. And
that's a great tip. Yeah.
Well, you'll see people put their address and name and telephone number. That goes into their ATS without those details. And I can't tell you, if you haven't got your mobile number on your CV, then, you know,
Yeah.
I know that sounds very simple, but you wouldn't believe how many people don't put it on there for fear of being called by other people.
Right. Okay.
Just insane.
And how long should a CV be, Robert, as well?
Oh, don't start me on that. That's it really depends. I you know, for me personally, I don't care, because if you're going for a job that has asked for experience, I don't know, say you're going for a global role in the live events business, and your last 15 years has been doing that in various guises, why would you shorten that just to make it on a page or two, you know? But I think for me, a CV, the one piece of like CV is like a book, you know. Will you turn the page on a book, you know? I'll give you a very scary stat. A hiring manager or a recruitment agent will scan you. I'll ask you, how long do you think they will scan your CV before deciding whether to read your CV?
It's got to be under 10 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so. Sorry, it's 6 seconds.
6 seconds. Wow. So you need to go straight to the chorus on the
and, you know, so it will be scanned, and then they'll read it, but they'll read it first for 30 seconds. So you'll get a 30-second read of it, and then they'll put it in there, yes, no, maybe, and then they'll, you know, dissect it. So, you know, if you're not grabbing attention, the personal profile is the key bit for me. You know, people talk about covering letters. I'm not a fan of separate covering letters, because it's your CV that gets put into the ATS, or that even if it's a person, it will be into a CRM.
So don't waste a lot of time on an amazing covering letter.
I would rather that covering letter was condensed as a personal profile, rather than, you know, I've been an event professional for 15 years and I'm professional and punctual and fun and energetic. You know, that's just BS, you know? Your personal profile in a marketing sense is you need to reach out of that screen, grab them by the throat and make them read your document. It's your personal marketing document. That's what a CV is. It's not
on the kind of funky ones that you see, you know, like very much design led ones, you know, or your more formal ones. Obviously, I guess it depends on the job you're going for and what kind of a person you are. But are there any, you know, I remember seeing one on LinkedIn, which was it was a video games designer. You may have seen it yourself, and he made his CV like a video. It was almost like a game of Mario. You walked through, and then it popped on things, and it opened up some of the experience he'd done, and it was amazing to showcase what he'd done. So is it a bit horses for courses, really, depending on what you're going for?
No, I think yeah, and I remember that, and it was fantastic. But if he had sent that to a large, like, I won't say any agency names for fear of getting sued, but if he'd have sent that to any large global, you know, info app, jobs app, that CV will not be passed and passed as in not physically, PARSED. That will not be able to be passed into their software, because it's not. So if you're sending that for a design job, send a Word document or a PDF, sorry, not Word, because Word, people can amend it. And I know that sounds really scary, but always send a PDF.
Yeah.
You know, he sends that, fantastic, but that gets put somewhere not compatible, you know? And just touching on the covering letter, if, say, for example, Dom applied for a role, and we were all a team of 3, and Dom applied for a role, when I forward your information to Neil, it's your CV that gets sent on. You know, it's the CV, not the email, not the 3-4 document. It's your CV that gets sent on, because people are time poor, and I know it's not a nice thing to hear.
Yeah.
You know, event profs will make a decision on something very quickly that you're used to, and so will recruiters and hiring managers.
Gavin Farley said, "Send it in the post with a gold envelope."
I mean, I love that sort of stuff. I mean, when I was High Street recruitment, you know, we picked like our top 10 people, and we sent them like this is embarrassing. We sent them a cake of a foot, and we were like, you know, and now we've got our foot in the door. Now that is obviously awful. And trust me, that is awful. But
hang on.
I know. Don't forget, I was 26, 27 years old. Well, you know, I've seen candidates, and it really depends. And this is the thing, I think, if you're sending a CV somewhere or an application and you really want that role, and ask me again, what are my tips for researching clients in a minute. But if you really want that role, you've got to know something about the industry you're sending it to. So I saw somebody send a CV and they'd, you know, 3D done it or whatever onto a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
Sent
Okay.
their CV. So the person puts their CV together, and it was fantastic. Now, if you were applying to an internal recruiter that deals with 100 vacancies a week, and you send a jigsaw that they've got to do, they are not going to do it. And I know that's, but they're just not. It's
it's tough on it. You have to make a call on, I guess, on who you send it. What your job is really.
Absolutely. If you're sending it to the hiring manager of and he's head of creative, or he's head of digital, or head of something like that, yeah, they're gonna want to feel it, touch it, feel it. If you're sending it to an internal recruiter or a recruitment agent, these people are unfortunately monsters.
I saw a couple of years ago, there was a girl, I think she was looking for an intern job at Grenade. And she went viral with this thing because she put together, she got a load of Grenade bars. I'm sure it was Grenade as a brand, but if it wasn't, someone might remember and correct me. But she took a load of Grenade products and created I think it was called the Power Box. And it was a whole load of Grenade products that she'd rewrapped using elements of her CV.
Yeah. Is that Grenade marketing or Grenade the Power Bar?
No, Grenade the Power Bar.
Yeah.
And the protein bar. And she sent this in, but when she sent it in, they then put that on LinkedIn and it went viral. And I'm fairly certain she got the job. It was fascinating.
I agree, but I also think in the current climate, I can almost feel your listeners like, well, that's, I'm not doing that. That is because I think the problem is people at the moment are sort of applying everywhere. And unfortunately, it's going to get worse. People are going to make decisions on roles because of financial, emotive, rather than long term. Clients are going to get to a stage of we need people. I think for me, and that just to remind myself, I always say to candidates, if you're going to start going out to the markets, if you're, there's not a lot of roles being advertised at the moment. I always ask myself, what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? And who's doing that? Now, if you just ask yourself those very three basic questions, you will start to get a list of 20 agencies that you want to work with. So, that old phrase, how do you eat an elephant? Small chunks. So rather than look at every live event or every experiential marketing agency, you'll get yourself a 10 or 15 list. Those 10 or 15 lists, we've all got time at the moment. I'm sorry, but we've all got time.
Yep.
There's more event profs than ever on LinkedIn at the moment. I've seen the hashtag grow by about 15,000, the event profs hashtag from the start of this. You can research the person that posts the job. You can research the brand. If you're sending a CV to somebody and in your personal profile, you're not referencing how you can help or a project they've done that you're interested. You're kicking yourself before you've even started. It's, they want to see that you've put effort into it, but sometimes too much. I think that Social Chain did that thing that somebody put their CV, and this is hands down the truth, they put their CV on an owl and got the owl to deliver it. Now,
okay.
What's his name? Stephen Bartlett. I actually met Steve Bartlett at a VidCon this year, just a few months back. And he told that story on stage, and I'd heard it before and I didn't honestly believe it was true, but he told it on stage, and then I got to talk to him afterwards and said, did that actually happen? He said, yeah, it genuinely happened.
But can you imagine, and I could use my, I was global development, I was at Bank Sadler when it was in Camden. Can you imagine somebody letting loose an owl in an open plan office for 140 people? We'd go crazy, wouldn't you? It'd be insane.
Oh my God. Where do you stand on photographs as well? Do people put the photos on them anymore, or because we kind of go through a phase of people doing it?
Yeah, and what I'm about to say now, you've got to remember, this is not my opinion. I'm very conscious that this is not my opinion, but unfortunately, there is unconscious bias. Whatever you say, whatever anybody says, there's an unconscious bias. So for me, the absolute no-nos: do not put your photo on a CV. Do not put where you live, your location, or anything like that, and don't put your date of birth. Now, the thing with the photo is, to be brutally honest, picture, and they will, without even thinking of it, make an assumption of what they think you're going to be like based on your picture. Whether you like that or not, that will happen. That is just human nature. We've all been in a bar, we've all looked at people, I wonder what, that's just human nature. Rightly or wrongly, that will happen. if you put, say you're applying for a job in Canary Wharf and you put Milton, you live in Milton Keynes, you're going to have maybe a hiring manager or a recruiter or somebody that does not realise that you could probably get to Canary Wharf quicker from Milton Keynes than you can from, I used to live in Richmond, quicker than you can from Richmond, so you'll go in the no part. And obviously the date of birth thing, it's unfortunately, it's an absolute given. People will make assumptions of where you are, how you're feeling in your career time. And the whole point about a CV is, negate or minimize the questions they have, minimize the reasons for them to say no. I'm sure a lot of your listeners, viewers, have probably recruited people, and you yourself will have sat there and made a decision on someone when they walk in a room, and that is unconscious bias, whether you like it or not. And that's what a CV is. It's it's the first time they're going to see you.
Yeah, I guess so. So what about when it comes to obviously at the moment with us all being kind of socially isolated, you mentioned, you touched on it earlier about video interviews or telephone interviews. Have you got any tips for that as well?
Yeah, it's a real tough one, because personally, the idea of making a hiring decision without meeting someone goes against every single sinew in my body. That just has got disaster written all over it. However, we are in a situation where people are doing that. I'd say a very small proportion, but the thing with video interviewing that people forget is you'll hear people say, "Oh, treat it like you're being interviewed," and it's not. It's a completely different environment. Gone are the nuances of how you're feeling. You're on a webcam now. You could be writing something else down. You could be on a mobile. Nobody knows. You lose the interaction of walking from reception to the office where you're getting to know them. Video interviewing is literally, you're being interviewed for 45 minutes, say, and at 10 a.m., say it was a 10 o'clock interview, when the video starts, bang, you're on. So the advice for it is, yes, it's still the same, still get dressed, still put your pants on, make sure you've not got, your dressing gown hanging in the background, do check your background. I know it sounds sad, but, we took some time offline making sure, can you see anything on my board? I had some shirts hanging up from an interview that I've just done.
I'll just jump in there. Dom, make sure your clock's hanging up okay.
Look, there is no need for this still to be coming up 3 weeks after it happened.
It fell off the wall behind him during the show.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, there's a few comments coming in. Gav Farley said, personally, if everyone's applying and doing the same thing, don't do the same as everyone else. Do more than everyone else. Bigger, better, and louder. The more effort you put in, the more chance you have. Surely. Neil Hendry says, interesting comments about the pictures and personal details, but most employers will go and look up social media profiles to find that out anyway.
Yeah.
Simon Wright said, some great stuff here. My daughter is applying for jobs at the moment, so this is really interesting. Katie Jardine. Hi, Katie. Thanks for coming on last week. Really useful tips here. Thanks. And Celia says, unconscious bias. You often can't hide gender or sometimes ethnicity or heritage when you provide your name. This remains the last area to be tackled. Yeah,
and it, it pains me. And again, this is not what I do, or this is. I've been doing this for 20. I've been in recruitment and events for 20 years. And you're absolutely right. It's a situation where decisions are getting made. And the other thing we've missed out as well is when my wife's looking to go back to work, or was looking to go back to work after children. When people put in their job, for example, taking care of two lovely boys and ensuring they have a wonderful life. Yeah, that sounds nice. But you don't need to, people are going to make an assumption. So tell them, in that bit there, taking the time to reassess, and now I'm looking for a challenge that you give me, it's make it, everything you've got to do is got to have the audience in mind. Who's reading your CV? Are you turning them on? Are you making them say, I want to meet this person, or are they looking going, oh, I think they'll think this? And that is, and you're right, ethnicity, it's so sad. I mean, all of these, are very sad, but people make those assumptions. It's just, we'll see it more and more. That last year, it was India. Talking about LinkedIn, I was on a LinkedIn channel talking about people getting LinkedIn requests from India, and people would just say no because no, you're going to try and sell me something fake or whatever. And I was on forums saying, are you guys crazy? You're not even checking their profile. And obviously now, the other LinkedIn forum was people sending invites from places like China, and people saying, well, no, I'm not, go to their profile and read it and make a decision. That's unconscious bias, an issue. But then obviously you've got just bias, and you're just an arsehole. Oh, sorry.
That's fine, it's true. Actually, again, Gavin's just commented, Gavin Farley, if anyone wants to send a CV into events, then please do, as we're looking for later in the year for experienced project managers. I'm saying no more than that, and people can work the rest out. Let's see how much effort people put in.
What you need, Gavin, is a experienced specialist recruit
with a white t-shirt.
Don't forget to say no agencies, otherwise you'll get them all ringing you as well, Gavin.
Robert, I've got a quick question for you. So it probably links in with that, what Gav was saying. Any tips for clients who are recruiting people? Because I know it can be difficult sometimes to get the right people, and it could be that it's down to location, or it could be, I don't know, experience or whatever. Any tips on how they should kind of recruit the right people, or the methods they should use? Obviously use people like yourselves, but the wording of when they're looking for people, that kind of thing.
Just before you answer that, I think the other thing to consider here is that while people that might be furloughed or not able to work right now, or even have been made redundant, are in a position where now's a really good time to start looking around. Just an extension to your question, Neil, I guess, is as much as that opportunity to look around and find new work or new employment is really good for us, equally, it's worth remembering that now more than ever, those that are going to start recruiting have probably the greatest choice they're ever going to have, and will perhaps be looking for something a little bit different.
Yeah, I'll answer that one first because the other one is easier. But I agree with what you're saying. I think the difficulty is, for me, and I wrote a blog on this a while back, candidate attraction is not recruitment.
Yeah.
Just because there's lots of people applying for what I think Gavin said, a senior project, I can't remember what he says, Projco, just pretend to say Projco.
Yeah.
You might get 100 people apply because they want to be a project coordinator with Gavin, and people will say, see, recruitment's easy. What happens is, the more people that apply, what is your selection criteria? How are you going to decide who gets it? Because you'll be surprised at how many people just interview and recruit who've never recruited, never trained, never done it professionally, but because they can talk, they think they're recruiters. I would never go to Gavin and say, I'll tell you how to run your event business. That's not my background, but I am a recruiter. So I think, yes, there are clients recognize that there'll be more than ever, but actually my advice there is you need to take longer, because you've got to find the people that are applying because they need the salary come July and August. And they're not going to tell you that in an interview. They're going to tell you all the things you want to hear about your brand and working, blah, blah, all the stuff that we can do. A phrase that somebody said to me, my old mentor, is you lie to get a job, you tell the truth to get a career. And that's a very big difference. Yeah. But in answer to your question, if you're a client, and this is, I do talks on this, the 3 modules to recruitment are very simple. You have attraction, selection, and retention. They are, I do talks with Confex and, education talks, attraction, selection, retention. And the biggest error, you said about tips, just very, very quickly, one tip on each thing. The biggest error I see on the attraction is clients and recruiters using the job description as their, here's my job, come work with us. Due to continued growth, we have an opportunity. Like, Jesus Christ, we're a creative industry. If you're not writing a bespoke job advert, and your job advert says to people, this is how amazing it is to work here, this is why you should work here, this is what will give you to work here, rather than you will do this, you will do this, you will have this, you will have this. It sounds really obvious, but you see people like a one-line post with a job description, and this is recruiters. My client based in London, bang, job description. If you're writing a bespoke job advert, don't be surprised that your caliber is terrible, and that's your own fault in the nicest possible way. The selection side of things, people just end up, and I've done it myself before I, went back to recruitment. You read the CV just before you walk into the interview, or you get given 10 and you just go and meet them all. If your selection you need to choose your panel on who is going to interact with this person, who is going to be the person that will work the most and, you know, grow the agency with this person. And all of you need to have a criteria of what am I looking for? What do I personally need? And that will then form the overall what we're looking for. And I'm not saying you have to go down the route of matrices for scoring and give people numbers. You know, I have clients that like doing that. But if you're not going into an interview with at least 2 or 3 things of what am I looking for, then you're wasting everybody's time. You know, selection is just that. You know, if you go buy a car, you don't go, oh, it's got 4 wheels, an engine and a steering wheel.
Yeah.
You know, you have an idea of what you're looking for and you need to tick them off. And on the retention side, the biggest failure I see is once people pass probation, the agency's like, right, so all that lovely onboarding, all that training, mentoring, one-on-one buddy time, they're like, right, you're in now, get on with it. You know, appraisals that become annual waste of times, you know, tick box. You know, I used to touch base, like it or not, I used to touch in with my team every 6 weeks. You know, every 6 weeks, and it would be 20 minutes. You know, how are you? How are you getting on? What support do you need? What do you need from me? Action points, get on with it. You know, that's how you retain people. You know, make them part of it. Ask them how you can be a better agency. You know, I know that's very, very quick, obviously. There's a whole stuff around that as well.
Yeah.
Tom, you've got quite a few questions there. I don't know if you want to run through a few of them.
Yeah, there's this is Gavin looking for thoughts. Gav, I kind of feel we should have got you to call in and have a conversation with us. The other thing to consider coming back to normality, and he's looking for an opinion here, is that the power's back with the employer rather than the employee now. More realistic salaries rather than inflated, which it has been. What do you think?
Oh, is this Gavin at Into Events, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he's an agency owner, right? Yeah, I mean, the problem is I'm not a fan of this candidate-driven market, employee-driven market. I think it's bullshit made up by recruitment folk to say that they do a really good job and that you should pay them a fee. I think it's rubbish, and you should never listen to a recruiter who's telling you it's a candidate or an employee-driven market, because they're only telling you that because that's what they want you to hear. And I think he's absolutely right at the moment. Now, there is, to me, the use of the word power is quite a negative there, because it should be a two-way conversation. It's, you know, interviewing recruitment is two-way. So it's not a case of, you know, it's down to you as a person. Do you want to be that guy that people think, you know, oh, he's trying to lowball me? You know, I normally would get paid 80,000, but because of the current climate, I'm only going to pay 60. Do you feel that person's going to come into your business and is going to run through brick walls and is going to, you know, shoulder your bit? They're just not. You know, it's like when you do a salary bracket, 70 to 80, and the client says, I'll do 70 or we're offer 65. You just think, why are you doing that? You know, think of that time. So as a business owner, Gavin will know what his P&L looks like, what his budget will be. And for me, it's, you need to put a cost to how much can I afford to get what I need to get done, and then that's what you look for. You don't. It's like a house at the moment. I just lost buying a house, my first house ever, and we lost it. And I've got half the estate agents saying, well, if you look at houses here, they'll take here. And then you've got the other estate agents saying, well, no, if you can't afford that, don't look at that. You know, just look at what you can afford. And that's the same with recruitment.
Cool. Any more, Dom? There's a few on there.
There's a couple more.
On a side note, Gavin should ring me and I'll talk to him. I won't. His role looks like something I can't help him with. But
it's not a commercial opportunity, this.
No, I meant I'm opening up my diary tomorrow to anybody. If anybody wants to talk about the sector, if anybody just wants to ask me questions,
give us the details. Give us the details. We'll put that on the.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do a wrap up thing at the end of the show, so we'll put that.
Celia, researching into promoting diversity shows that also you have to go and look for diversity by making direct approaches to prospective candidates. Don't sit back and wait for applications, because you will get the same types again. And not only that, you're recruiting your own image. It's more of a comment than a question. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, I think, and it really depends on who you're utilizing. So if you say me, I'm a search and select. So part of my role is headhunting. So, you know, I will go into the market to find people. That's a given. If you've got an internal recruitment team, you would expect them to do some, so we call it passive and active candidates. Active is somebody that's applied, passive is somebody you approach. But it all comes back to, like we just said, the previous comment is, how serious are you about recruiting? You know, if you're looking to fill a hole, then you wouldn't do that.
and lots of clients don't, because they just focus on what's in front of them. Whereas, you know, using her comment there, you know, you go out and find what you need to, and that's the difference. It's just takes time. Recruitment's not hard. You know, I know that sounds really weird. Recruitment is not hard. It's just really, really hard bloody work, and it's really easy to get wrong. You know, I don't.
Sorry, I've got another question for you from Anika. As someone who's looking, if there is a gap now between who's in a gap between roles, do you think clients, recruiters will judge if that person hasn't been crazy, like productive in that time? Like, you know, do you need to build up your skills? Because it's a difficult, when you're out of work, I guess it's a difficult situation to, you know, you need to build your skills up. You might not have them. Will that make a difference to people, you know, employers when they're viewing your CV?
Well, I think the situation now, obviously, we're all going to be, if this is a COVID-19 question, we're all going to be in the same boat. And I wrote a blog Monday that got some good traction around, look, you know, if you want to learn Spanish, get an MBA, run an indoor marathon, that's great. You know, that suits you. But if you want to have a glass of wine and a cookie, then just go and do that as well. You know, this is the biggest single thing to ever hit the whole industry, you know, and the whole world. Give yourself a break. And also, I would say, if you're going to be judged on that by an employee, are they really the type of employee you want to work for? That's my answer to that. But the second one is, the problem again with gaps in recruitment is when you don't tell us, or you don't tell a client what that is. You know, what have you been doing? Because you're going back to the bias or people making assumptions. Yeah. If you've put 3-year travel the world, okay, that's great, but and I'm not saying, you know, try and link it in with great communication skills. I went to Burning Man, you know, I'm not saying anything like that. But, you know, tell us what you did. That tells us more about your personality than we can make up. And just be very careful with these sort of people that take it to that degree, because if they're going to do that on their selection process, what's it going to be like working for them, you know? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Interestingly, that comment that came in ties in nicely with another comment that Tracy made earlier. Interviewing is a two-way thing. Candidate needs to also ensure they ask the questions to ensure the role and company fits their profile too. And that's actually the really... I've done that in the past. I think it's sometimes you're so keen to get the job that you forget to ask the questions that enable you to understand if the company's right for you. It's not always, I think if I go back 16 years, right to the earlier days in the earlier part of my career, it probably was a little bit more one way. It was very much, you're going in to get this job, and if we offer it to you, then we'd expect you to take it.
Yeah.
But that's not the case now. I know lots of people that have turned jobs down once they've gone through the interview process, some right the way through really, really long interview process to get some really senior jobs, and have just walked away and said, you know, this isn't the right place for me. And it's really important that that's remembered.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst phrase in recruitment is informal interview. You know, it's such an oxymoron, because no interview is informal. You are being judged and you are judging them. That is, you know, the basis of interviewing. It's like, I mean, I always relate it to dating, but I think the thing is, in that environment, it depends on how. So let's take the informal first stage interview. Let's pretend you said about two-way interviewing. Because personally, after and it depends on how you've got there, for a professional recruiter, or it does depend, but let's just say standard. When you get to final presentation stage, for example, that is not a two-stage interview. You are tap dancing for that job to say, give me that job. Yeah. That has to be that way, because at the informal interview, that's where you have no, and with my candidates, I call it the grey call. You know, they ring me afterwards and there can be no grey. You either want that job and you're going to run through walls for it, or it's not for you and just walk away there and then. And if you're being interviewed by someone that isn't doing two-way, they are an ambassador of that agency or that brand or that client. If that's how they think the interaction with you is right, they're going to be like that when you work there. So do walk away. You know, there's nothing
to that end as well. I think that you might find that there's like two waves of employment after the kind of COVID. You might find the people who just take any job that's going at the moment and then kind of work, you know, haven't got that luxury to kind of say, well, I'm going to stop, and then have another wave of, well, I've left and I'm looking for another job, if you know what I mean, if you understand what I mean.
You know, and I completely, you know, I'm not going to earn. We'll come out the other side of this business, this issue. I'll be skint. I'll probably owe the bank some money, but I'll have a brand that I can build back up and a reputation. So, I count that as a win. I'm one of the lucky people. I get that there are people that in 2, 3, 4 months' time are having no income and need to take anything to literally keep you from the door. And I am not going to stand here and say, "Oh, you should be honest with your employee and tell them that you." Of course not. Go and do what you want.
Yeah.
Look after yourself first. And I know that goes against the whole community thing, but you need to look after yourself first. So I get that. But also, I think that's about putting yourself in a mindset of, if you're thinking, I'm going to go and do this job for 6 months until I find something else. We all talk to each other. Neil, you and I talk offline. Agency owners talk. I know there's a WhatsApp group at the moment of experiential marketing owners, and it's got about 120 people on it, and they're all talking all the time about what's going on. So if you go into an agency and spend 6 months just, clocking in, clocking out, doing your time, and then leave, that is your brand. If you in your head are thinking, do you know what, I am just going to go and do this for 6 months, go and do the best 6 months you can humanly do. So that when you leave after 6 months, rather than being them saying, "Oh, you only lasted 6 months," they're saying to you, "Thank you for what you've done in the 6 months you've been here. You've been fantastic."
Yeah. You could even create your own role with it, within that company as well. If you do such a good job, and show so much enthusiasm, you can then develop, going in as one role, starting as one role, and maybe develop it into something that you really want to do if you can prove that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But again, you've got to be realistic on these. No one, well, I think it's a problem in the industry that people get promoted because of their enthusiasm. But what will happen is, if you're proving yourself invaluable, if you're in that 6 months saying, you've got me in this channel, but I've also got these skills over here. Everything there is about, how can I make your life easier, boss? How can I help the agency? It will come to you. And it's not working 8 in the morning till 8 at night. It's not, putting your hand up first for every project.
Smart. Yeah. And being invaluable. Yeah. I mean, I can appreciate that as being a freelancer, because I think you have to do that every time you work for a client.
Yeah.
You have to make yourself, and Dom will know that, he's working for clients all the time. You have to make yourself invaluable so that that you're the first person they think of when they come back to you. And I guess it's the same whether you're in a full-time employment. I just want to jump back to a couple of last quick questions.
Yeah, there's 2 questions. Neil, can you just have a double check on YouTube to see if anything's coming in over there? Because I'm only looking at Facebook.
Sure.
While you're checking there, we've had a question from Celia. How important are references? I always put my references are available on request on my CV. What's the right answer there?
I mean, for me...
Is there a right answer?
Well, it depends. Like, if, for example, by putting... Sorry, I'll start again. The answer is, if you can't get references, we're going to find out. We just assume we're going to get references. We take that as, we talked about bias. This is the one occasion where an assumption is, we're going to get references at one point. If writing that line takes you onto a 3rd page and that's going to be it's not needed. But it's also, I'm not going to read that and go, "Oh, why has this idiot put references available on request?" I'm going to, I think the thing is about all the questions that people ask themselves is, me as a recruiter, me as a headhunter, whatever, everybody I speak to, I want you to be the right candidate. I'm not looking for ways to say no. I'm looking for ways to say yes.
Yeah.
And it's the same like when you're pitching for work. The client wants you to have the idea. They don't want to see you, clients don't want to interview you and say, "Oh yeah, no, you're not right." They want you to get the job because that makes their life easier. Yeah. So everything about your CV, everything you do has got to be, this is how I'll make your life easier and how I'm going to benefit you. And this is on the selection from candidate to client, not the other way.
Robert, we're having millions of questions here. I feel like we could do another show on this, and perhaps we should. But Dom, we got time for a couple more quick questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask one actually. There's one sitting on Facebook, and then I'll let you have a go. Okay. Lisa, I really like this question as well because I think it's really interesting. I've been in this position before. How do you get across your skills so that a recruiter can see your potential and your transferable skills rather than discounting you straight away because of your previous job title or industry?
How do you get across your skills?
How do you get across your skills so that a recruiter can see your potential and transferable skills rather than discounting you straight away because of your previous job title or industry?
You tell them, and I know that sounds really, if say we're talking transferable. Now I'm assuming we're in the realms of, I had a group commercial director role before all this happened, and I had commercial pilots applying. Now, I'm assuming we're not talking transferable in that sense.
Yeah, it's not the words being transferable.
Yeah. So I think if you were looking at, for example, I don't know, say they were talking about global sales strategy, and maybe you haven't done global sales strategy. I'm just picking something out there, but you've done sales strategy. So you will be telling me how proactively you led a project, you helped the MD, you're going to give me results, you're going to tell me how successful you are in sales strategy, and then tell me why that transfer. Actually tell me, and how this could scale up globally is because of my network as an event professional in the regions that, and I think it goes back to the question I said, the point I said right at the beginning. Give me the answers to the questions. You know what I'm going to ask. By that lady asking that question, you've asked that because you know that's what people are going to want to know. Yeah. So if you know they're going to ask that, just answer it. I'm making all recruiters sound like, scumbags, but to be fair, 80% of them are. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. It's not a nice sector, and especially in the recruitment for events. But anyway, that's whole other thing.
Neil, what have you got?
Yeah, so I've got. We need information about. We can get it at the end when your CV masterclass is. So we'll put that on the wrap up at the end. What day is that, Robert? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I'll get it for you when you.
Oh, it's okay. You just come back to me. Tell us at the end. Yeah. And then another quick question. Can you give any advice on how corporate in-house event people can maybe switch to agency side? Is there any prejudice from switching over, or, is it a difficult thing or anything you can, is it all about transferring your skills and things?
Yeah, I think, again, the problem with that sort of role is we all have our own version of what other people do. So if you take the basics, corporate, agency and client, corporate think that creative agencies, are all exposed brickwork and dogs running around the office and Soho Shoreditch, all of that, and they don't really work hard and they charge a lot of money. Creatives think that corporate work 9 to 5 and it's all budget driven, and then we all think clients, don't know their arse from their elbow. But clients, obviously, and I'm talking not my clients, I'm talking about events. The end user client in events, we all know that they're sat there saying, oh, if I had the time, I could do this myself. So you're already, and everybody that's listening now, and we all have an assumption, like it or not, we all think those certain ways in your own mind. So the thing about corporate to agency is, again, they are never, ever going to think they're the same. Nobody is going to look at a corporate in-house event person and think you're going to fit in here lovely. Not on the top line. So this is where you go into, on your job skills. And the problem people make is, I'm not saying write a different CV for every role, but if you're going to move into that, the language of your CV needs to change. You would speak differently to a head of creative than you would a head of procurement. That's just natural. So on your CV, the tonality, the layout, even the font, well, I don't mean go crazy, Arial or whatever, it's got to be basic.
We don't want to see Comic Sans though, do we?
Sans, no. But it's again,
one of the best is they speak to a retained recruiter such as yourself, Robert, would be.
To caveat, I am not a professional CV writer. There is a whole industry. I know somebody. If people, and I don't want to say it here because it sounds like that, but my mentor is, he writes CVs. That's what he does. There are companies out there that would do it, and they're great at what they do. My CV masterclass is getting you from, oh my God, what am I going to do, to a document that will get you in front of people.
Yeah.
But the just going back to that corporate side, if you're going to an agency who say, that Facebook or Google or Uber are their main clients, you have to show me in there how your skills as a corporate would help me with that sort of client.
Yeah, maybe like a different viewpoint and a different way of looking at things.
Even started, I had somebody once start a CV with, I know you're going to think this, that, and the other, so let me answer that. And I read it and was like, part of me was like, you cheeky git, but the other half was like, the other half I thought, you're absolutely spot on. I did, but I thought you're so right, and we're talking about it. Yeah.
You know what, Robert? This has been an amazing show. I mean, honestly, so many questions. I do honestly think we should get you on again if that's all right in the future, some point in the future. Any last comments, Dom, before we wrap up? I know we've got.
No, I don't think so. I think we've had more questions and comments on this than we have in the previous few shows, and it's been really good. This has obviously been of value to people. I think I would just encourage, first of all, Rob to put links to the CV masterclass and anything else into the comments in the bottom, so people can actually access stuff. If you've got further comments and questions. Because there are still people watching shows that we did 2-3 weeks ago, Neil. So if comments and questions come in, we will do our best to get back to them and make sure that those comments and questions get answered. And equally, if you have a direct question, probably not from myself or Neil on this occasion, but if you have a question for Robert, then please do get in touch. We haven't done websites or anything. Again, we can put those in the comments below, but it's been really useful. And I'm really grateful to everyone that stuck around despite the initial technical issue, came back and rejoined us. It's been great.
It's been fantastic. Thanks very much, Robert. I mean, I can't believe we've gone through this whole show without talking about you know who, the puppet.
Oh, Little Matt. Yeah, Little Matt.
Like an interview by.
Yeah, that was right at Confet. Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, he's on my website, www.usas.co.uk.
Nice.
And there is a link on there to the webinar, which is on the 30th of April at 11 o'clock. So just register, you'll get all the details. My diary will be open tomorrow via calendar, and I'll give you the things. But the idea of that is just book some time in with me in May. I've just blocked the whole of May out. Even if you just want to have a chat and just shout or cry down, on a Zoom call, great. Let's just do that. But yeah, Little Matt is. I think he's taken on more of a life than anything else. But he's that's the sort of how I work.
We need him on the show next time.
If you want to, he'll, because the actual puppeteer, I know you won't believe this, but he's not real. But the puppeteer is called Matt. So that's how creative we are. That we called the puppet Matt. But now I have to call him Little Matt. And of course, that has connotations on its own anyway. So yeah.
Thanks very much, and big thank you to Dom and to everybody.
Well, let's say goodbye to Robert. We'll do a quick wrap up and then introduce what we're going to be doing next week as well, Neil. So, Robert, from me, I'll say thank you.
No worries. Yeah, thank you. Nice to have met you all. And look forward to speaking to people. And stay safe, stay inside, everyone. We will get through this. It will end. Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. It's been brilliant.
Thanks, Robert. Cheers.
So next
there we go, just you and me.
Yeah.
Tell us, we are here again at 1:30 next week. Who have we got next week, Neil?
We have got the fabulous Martin Fullard from Conference News.
Oh yeah.
So we'll be running like a kind of an interview with him. He's been really active with all the COVID-19 stuff, particularly at the moment.
Yeah.
So it'll be a really interesting chat. He's a great guy, Marty, as well. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
If you've got any questions to send to us for Martin, please send them through to us, DM them or put them on email to me or Diane. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, there are still people watching right to the end. Thank you very much for watching. I've just seen Chrissy said, thanks, guys. Chrissy, thank you very much. And everyone at home who has watched, we will be back here at 1:30 next Tuesday. Myself, Neil, and...
Marty Fullard.
Marty, that's it. Marty Fullard. Sorry, went completely blank. Okay, we will look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining us, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.